Welcome back to the series where I tell stories of things that didn't go so well and gave me the reaction of saying, "Oh, that's fucking adorable." Today's episode, we're going to be talking about that time that I ended up with an Airbnb in Fort Worth, Texas, and it got shut down. Now, here's the thing. I never actually purchased this property, and I never actually intended on having an Airbnb. So how did I end up here? Well, I talk about this all the time. As entrepreneurs, we are chaos creators. We are also problem solvers. And in this scenario, my decision to solve a problem created a lot of chaos and got me in a mess that I should have never been in. So this is way back when, in my second year of wholesaling, 2016. Right? We were still new. We were fresh into this. However, I was being told that the objective to wholesaling is to just get started. And eventually, you need to own properties because that's how you create true wealth and passive income. Wholesaling was just a stepping stone. So I had this gentleman out in California. He bought quite a few properties from us. He then started JVing with us where we would acquire deals. He would do the dispositions, and it worked out really well. Now, this property in Fort Worth was in a higher end neighborhood, and the ARV on this property that we had was somewhere around $750,000. That's a pretty high end property, specifically back in 2016 for Fort Worth, Texas. So we wholesaled this property to him, and it needed a lot. Now, here's the thing. This property was very unique. It was kind of a Frankenstein type property where there had been additions and the floor plan was a little funky. And so what ended up happening here is there was a pretty decent rehab. I mean, interior looked really nice, but the floor plan, again, just not necessarily what you're looking for when you're thinking of a $750,000 property in Fort Worth, Texas. Okay. Kind of a galley kitchen. There was an awkward bedroom towards the front that used to be an addition. The primary suite was all the way in the back down a long hallway that was also an addition. But from the exterior, the main issue with this property was it had older siding, like cedar shake siding, and it had multiple flat roofs. This is what really ended up being like a deal killer on this deal, is that the flat roofs just were, one, unattractive, showed that the property had multiple additions, and it just kind of stood out as a sore thumb in the neighborhood. So despite the fact that the property looked great on the interior, it just sat on the market. Now, again, remember, the person that I wholesaled this property to was almost like a business partner. Not formally, but we were doing a lot of deals together, a lot of wholesale transactions where he was doing the dispositions. And again, remember, I was newer into this game, so this relationship was vitally important. And with this property being in Fort Worth, Texas, I'm a problem solver. I came up with a solution. Funky doesn't necessarily work when you're trying to sell on the retail market, but a funky property could work as an Airbnb. You see it all the time. So I made the decision, how about I come on and I help manage this. I'll help furnish it, and I'll run this property as a property manager on Airbnb. That way, instead of losing money month over month, we can start gaining some income, eventually pay down the note on this, and we can relist it in a couple of years. So that was the plan. Cassie and I went, we furnished it. We got all of down to the utensils, the appliances, the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the towels and everything you could think of to fully furnish this house. And we started renting it out on Airbnb, and it did well. I mean, night after night, couple $100, it was coming in. It was cash flowing. It was working out really great. Now, I learned some things about, running an Airbnb. I'll never forget the time that someone complained about the fact that we only had 26 towels in the house. They wish we had 30. That was a unique, complaint. There was another complaint that we didn't have a wok, right, in the kitchen. And they wanted us on a Saturday night at 9 p.m. to go get them a wok because they expected that to be a part of what was in the kitchen. Just very weird requests running an Airbnb. So I learned a lot about it. Well, again, running an Airbnb, you're in the hospitality industry. So it was just part of a learning experience. But we had some guests come in, and it was right around that graduation season, right, where all the high schools are graduating. Everyone's throwing parties. Someone rented out our property, said there was going to be 4 to 5 guests, normal requests for wanting to rent out the Airbnb. We approved them. They showed up, and then we started getting complaints. And then we found out that the police had been called. Why? Because there was a party that was thrown at our property. This is a very quiet neighborhood in Fort Worth. And again, luxurious neighborhood, right? There's money there, older Fort Worth money. And across the street, there's a lady who was a professor at TCU, Texas Christian University. And she called the cops. And then she filed a formal complaint that we were running a bed and breakfast at this property. Now, the problem with that is that is not allowed in Fort Worth, Texas. And because she filed this formal complaint, there was an investigation done. The reason why the complaint was filed is not because there was a party thrown inside the house. It was because minors actually crawled through the window upstairs onto that flat roof. The main problem as to why this property wouldn't sell on the retail market, and drank beers and smoked on the flat roof in the front yard. As you can see right here, it's right there in the front. And they're out there having a party on our flat roof. The bane of our existence with this property to begin with. And now there's an investigation. So we got served, told to shut down. I had to go in front of a judge in the courthouse. He explained, I understand that this is a short-term rental and you're renting this out on Airbnb, but in the eyes of the city of Fort Worth, we view that as a bed and breakfast business. You do not have a license to run a bed and breakfast business in the city of Fort Worth. We are shutting you down and we are fining you $600 a day that you continue running this business, this bed and breakfast business out of this property. We do know that you've done it at least these 2 days that we did this investigation. So here's your $1,200 fine. Boom, shut down. Now, again, I should have never been in this situation to begin with. As a wholesaler, what I should have done is provided equity and or cash flow to my end buyer and let that live on its own. Whether or not that deal ends up as a win for that end buyer or a loss, we've done our job. The end buyer has to make the decision. Realistically, I allowed fear and emotions to really sway my judgment and get involved in something that I should have never been involved in. Running an Airbnb, I didn't know anything about running an Airbnb. However, it was successful because we were cash flowing, but we didn't know the appropriate amount of research that we needed to do. And honestly, we probably should have talked to the neighbors about what we were doing. I tried to go talk to the neighbor. She didn't want to have a conversation. It was too late and it was too far gone, and the Airbnb got shut down. I paid the $1,200 fine, and we immediately relisted the property for sale. It took months for the property to eventually sell, multiple price drops. And based off of what I see in my emails, this might not be accurate. It looks like our end buyer ended up losing about $10,000 from what he owed to the cash offer that he received on the retail market. Now, we probably gained that much in the passive income that we got. Well, actually not passive, active income that we got off of Airbnb, but there was probably still money lost on holding costs, utilities and property taxes and things like this. So this property was a loser. That being said, it should have been a loser a lot earlier, and we should have never gone down this path. Problem solving can be a huge benefit as an entrepreneur, but it can also kick the can down the road to only get yourself in more trouble. Now, I'm thankful that all it ended up being was a $1,200 fine. They didn't go back to see that for months on end, we had actually been running this as an Airbnb, and I could have gotten fined a lot more. So at the end of the day, I learned my lesson on this one. I learned my lesson to not ever do an Airbnb again in the city of Fort Worth. And if I ever did want to run an Airbnb, to make sure that you do the appropriate research. At the end of the day, this is a lesson learned. And one of those small little things that took place early on in our journey in real estate investing that taught us what we should be doing, why we should have a hedgehog concept and a core business focus, and why we shouldn't be chasing those shiny objects that people say, hey, you can make a ton of money doing this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you give this video a like. See you guys tomorrow.